Hi everyone, Athena Ali here, the Get Noticed Coach. Today I'm doing a bit of an impromptu live in my living room instead of my office. But it's about a conversation that I've been having with a couple of people on LinkedIn, a very respectful conversation, by the way, which is lovely because I love the type of conversations where you can actually debate an issue. It's okay to have another opinion. But I thought I'd come on live to talk about today really what this conversation's about and what people tend to, I believe, misunderstand about what a resume writer really does. Now, I'm not just a resume writer, I'm a coach too. So I actually teach my clients, which is more of a mentoring consulting role, but I also coach them and empower them to learn to write their own documents or navigate their career. So I do a bit of both. But if we're talking about purely just a resume writer, the conversation went like this. I had received a message last week, somebody who wanted me to write their application in the space of, I don't know, a couple of hours, because I was closing at that time of day. It was a Friday, I think, even. So, you know, asking if I had a last minute cancellation to write up a job description that was due, job application, not job description, that was due that night. And I'm thinking, no, because as a human, it does not take me, less than an hour to write, because I would still have to consult with this person and talk with this person about their application. And it got me thinking about GPT, because that's a really big thing at the moment. And, you know, there's been some talk about that and resume writing and indeed any other writing. So, for example, if you're writing grants, tenders, if you're writing sales copy for a website, if you're a copywriter of any sort, basically anyone who writes, has to face this technology at the moment and everyone talking about it, which is fine. I mean, you know, the world is moving, technology moves, and we have to move with it. Even if you are a resume writer, you still have to move with it. You have to find a way to work with it because people are using it. We can't ignore it. We can't say, no, we don't use technology, because we do and we will as we go forward. At this point in time, I only use it to inspire, blog posts and content, so that I can generate my own ideas from the ideas that I get out of ChatGPT. Because I still think that if you want people to engage in your content, whether it's a job application or whatever, it still has to come from you and it still has to sound like you. And that's something that a resume writer does, that is a bit different to ChatGPT at the moment. Now, that's not to say that it's not going to be able to do that in the future. We don't know. We don't know how smart this technology is. So the conversation was around, basically using ChatGPT or indeed a resume writer to write your application. And someone in the public sector whom I've been following and who I respect, and I really respect her opinion on this, and I understand absolutely where she's coming from with her comments, sort of said, look, I understand that, you might get someone to help you with your CV, but I really don't like the idea of, and it's also unethical to have somebody write your selection criteria. The issue I have with that statement, and something I was trying to communicate with this person, was that the job application, whilst that might be a rule in the public sector where she is, the problem I see with that is that unless the job is predominantly one where you need to do a lot of writing as part of your communication, then I don't see the issue with having somebody else write your application, whether it's your selection criteria, your cover letter, your resume, or even your LinkedIn profile. I have no issue with that. And the reason for that is because when you're writing your selection criteria for an engineering role or, even a director role, even directors 9 times out of 10 do not write their own copy. Someone else is writing their copy, and that'll be their EA or somebody who actually performs the role of copywriter or policy officer or whoever. And my point is that you are not being judged by your selection criteria. Like, you are not, the selection criteria is not to write selection criteria, or indeed most of the time it's not to write anything unless the selection criteria have something around correspondence and you being able to write proposals or being, in which case they would want to see your writing as part of that application. I get that. And that makes sense. But if it's not, and it's not a core component of the role, and you can write reports, but you just can't write persuasive copy, which is essentially what a resume selection criteria and all those other things in this HR field here. There's no issue with having somebody else write it. It doesn't mean you can't perform that role. Just because somebody cannot persuasively convince somebody that they can do the job does not mean that they can't do the job. And we find this happens all the time, where people get rejected from roles or don't get interviewed because of the copy on that piece of paper. It doesn't mean they can't perform the role. And there's a lot of people who miss out every day on roles who are more than capable of doing the role, but because their copy is not persuasive, they don't land an interview or the job. So what you need to understand about resumes, selection criteria, all of that, is that they're marketing materials. They are not pieces of paper that, they're not part of a degree. They're not part of something that this is not part of the job that you're going to perform. If you're not going to be a copywriter or someone who persuades people in terms of your copy, then there's no issue with somebody else writing it for you or helping you to write it. Because if you think about it, the person that perhaps, Colonel Sanders, let's go to KFC. Colonel Sanders, when he started his business, if all he said to people was, look, I've got some chicken, it's really nice chicken, it's a free range chicken, and my chicken has some herbs and spices on it that makes it taste really nice. We might go, yeah, okay, whatever. We might not buy it. So what does he do? He hires a copywriter or someone in marketing who will it doesn't mean that chicken isn't good. It doesn't mean the chicken isn't good, or that it's not chicken, or that it doesn't have those beautiful herbs and spices on it. But no one's going to buy it if it doesn't sound good or it's not going to change their world, right? But if his copywriter says to me that chicken is healthy, that, and whether it is or isn't, I don't know, but, the chicken's healthy, it helps you grow, it gives you energy, and you feel really good, and it's so delicious that you want to eat more, and they use all this persuasive copy, guess what? Everyone's going to run to KFC and eat the KFC. But doesn't mean the KFC isn't good just because he doesn't know how to describe how good that KFC is. Does that make sense? So we have a lot of candidates who complain that they're more than qualified for the job, but because they don't know how to persuasively convince you that they can do the job, doesn't mean they can't do the job. And that's what resume writers do. They're like copywriters. They're like tender writers. Do we have a problem with people who write tenders for an organisation? Do we have a problem with people who write grants for people? Does that mean they're cheating? Does that mean they're doing the wrong thing? Actually, no, it's not. They're doing a function that either someone hasn't got the time for or doesn't know how to do, doesn't know how to make themselves sound good enough to be selected. That's what the resume writing process does. And good resume writers and good coaches are not going to coach people who can't do the job. And believe me, I go through a process where I make sure people can do the job, because if they can't describe to me, even if it's in their language that isn't persuasive, if they can't convince me that they can do the job, I don't take on the job, because I will only write persuasive copy for people who genuinely can do the job but are just not really good writers. And not everyone's a good writer, and that's okay. If that's not the job you're performing, it doesn't matter. So whilst you might think that you must write your application, a lot of people don't. Okay, and particularly at the executive level, they don't. They've got better things to do, like changing the world, than writing their job applications. They'll get someone else to do it. The thing is, all the achievements, all the things that are in that CV are correct. It's just they're written with words that persuade. That's the difference. And it's the same with the selection criteria. The only difference is you're telling a story. Whereas in a resume, you're writing short, sharp bullets. It's just a different form of writing, but it doesn't mean it's any different or any less, you can't say it's okay to have a CV written by somebody else but not selection criteria. It is exactly the same thing. It's still copy that requires persuasion. And if you don't know how to do that, you either need to learn to do it yourself or you need to get someone to do it for you. But the actual facts remain the same, and that is provided by a client. And that's why it doesn't matter if I don't know how something works. It doesn't matter if you're in a career that I've never worked in. It doesn't matter, because you're the client. You give me the information. I just use persuasive words and copy around your facts. It doesn't make the facts not be facts. They're still facts. The only difference is that I make it enticing for people to want to read those facts. Right? And so this is where the mistake is and the misunderstanding is. So hopefully that makes a bit of sense. And that was sort of a digression off ChatGPT and whether ChatGPT can actually write this way. And ChatGPT is pretty good. I've gone in there and I've had a look and I've done a little play. The only thing it doesn't do is it doesn't replicate my voice, like the way I would say something, and that's where a human can actually come in. And this is why we consult with you before we write your documents. We do it so that we can write it in a way that is authentic to you. Because at the end of the day, you have to be able to go into an interview and be able to, you have to be able to speak to that document. So if that document isn't written in a way that you can speak to and the facts are not correct, then that's going to be an issue when you get to an interview. And that's why you shouldn't just get a resume. You should also get an interview coaching session, because you need to be able to speak in the same language and know how to persuade people and about the facts that you own. Okay. So as I said, you do not need to be, I don't need to have been a director before to write up a director role, because I can see in the job description what you need to do as a director. You also provide me with the information about your previous experience as perhaps an acting director or a director. And I can write from, all I have to do is put the persuasive copy around that. The facts remain the same. It doesn't make a difference. And as I said also in that example, was that, when what is wrong with hiring somebody just because you're an individual? Why can't you hire people to do things for you? Why do we have this limiting belief around, oh no, you can't hire someone to do that? But if I was a business and I wanted to hire a copywriter to write my tender or grant, that's okay. But it's not okay for an individual to hire someone to perform a function. That's a mindset issue. That's a mindset issue and something that society tells you can't do, but doesn't mean you can't do it. And that's why, and I'm going to digress again here, this is why women don't outsource cleaning or cooking, because society tells them you shouldn't do that. But an organisation will outsource, or a business will outsource cleaning and cooking, But for some reason, society says it's not okay for an individual to do that. I say that's not true, and that's the same with resume writing or coaching or anything like that. If you need that service, there's no reason why you can't outsource it, as long as you, as the expert, provide the facts to that person in order to complete the job for you. Anyway, that was a really long live today, a really long impromptu live. And a very unprepared one, as you could see, because I was about to go for a walk. But I thought, no, I'm going to respond to this because I think there's a lot of misunderstanding around this and what, we do for our clients. And to be honest, most of the people I work with are in the public sector, and none of them have an issue coming to me to get me to write up their facts for them, because that's essentially what I do. Anyway, that's the end of the live today. If you do want someone who actually knows what they're talking about, who knows how to persuade people to interview you, or you want to learn how to brag about yourself, because at the end of the day, most people don't brag about themselves, don't have the confidence to do this. So if you have an issue doing that and you need to learn how to do it, or you don't want someone to write your selection criteria and you want to learn how to do it, get in touch with me, because I do have an award-winning course where you can learn how to do this. You do not have to have it written by somebody else. It is something that's teachable, but obviously you need to have the time to do that as well, and you have to want to do it. And don't forget, these are life skills, so you can learn to do these things yourself. So either way, feel free to DM me. I'd love to hear from you. And don't listen to everybody else. That's just everybody else's opinions. What matters is that you get the result, which is getting the job that you really love and that you're qualified for. Don't let other people make you think that you can't get a writer or you can't get a coach because someone said so. If that's what you want to do, you absolutely can do whatever you want to do. Don't let somebody else tell you that you can't. There are also ethical ways of getting the result that you want. Just get in touch with me and I can absolutely help you with that. Bye.